Welcome back. Did somebody say playoffs? The college football semifinals are tomorrow. The first game is Orange Bowl between number 1 Clemson and number 4 Oklahoma. These two actually met in last year's Russell Athletic Bowl, and the Tigers crushed them 40-6. Now this year, however, Clemson will have to be without 3 of their players after they failed drug tests, according to ESPN's Mark Schlabach and multiple reports. So guys, who do you think is going to take this one? Well,
Clemson versus Oklahoma. It pains me because I would never want to root for 0U or suggest they could win or suggest that they have any competency whatsoever. But I actually think Oklahoma.
So you hate them like I hate Michigan?
No, you and I had this debate. I'm going to give it to you. You hate Michigan more than I hate Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma wins, though. I think they beat Clemson. They are so balanced. They set aside that loss to Texas, and I interviewed Roy Williams yesterday on ESPN Radio, and he said, famous Roy Williams from both Dallas Cowboy and Oklahoma Day, said that loss to Texas was a help. It was motivation. And Oklahoma is not short on motivation. Baker Mayfield being rejected by nearly every college in the country, not once, but twice. Not getting a scholarship offer, leaving Texas Tech, walking on. That's for a second time at OU. I've heard they've watched the Clemson game like 10 times from last year. They know that a tombstone and it was buried in the Clemson graveyard for that win. Clemson celebrated. Oklahoma has motivation. Clemson's great, but they're a one-man team. I think something like 66% of their offense is generated from Watson, which puts him in awesome company. Manziel and Cam Newton territory. But again, I take balance over one dimension any day.
Yeah, I think Oklahoma is going to come out also, and this kind of goes to what we were saying yesterday. Momentum and the way teams are playing right now, and if you look at what Oklahoma has done in the last couple of weeks, they took care of Baylor, TCU, and Oklahoma State, and they put up 58 on Oklahoma State, and it's like, wow, they're playing. They have to.
It is the Big 12, though.
Yeah, but it's still the way they're playing, and Oklahoma State was in the conversation like a few weeks ago. They're playing better football than anybody else in the country, I think, right now. So, I kind of tend to lean towards what I see. The same, it's similar to Arizona and who they beat against Green Bay. The same premise I'm putting into right now. So that's the reason I'm taking Oklahoma. And like I said, you look at what Mayfield's doing. He's playing great ball.
He's a leader of men.
He's playing phenomenal football. And he may not, go well in the draft. He may not do what all the prognosticators are saying he won't do. But for right now, for this team, he's doing a hell of a job. And I can't see Clemson, matching. I really just can't.
No Tiger love here.
I do want to see Clemson win because I understand a lot of people are just like, oh, Clemson's going to pull another Clemson. You know what I mean? Things like that. I worry about their defense, though. I mean, I think they're ranked second in defensive efficiency, but since Halloween, they've been giving up like 27.2 points per game. They didn't look good against North Carolina. They didn't look good against South Carolina, I believe. That's where I think if this is a shootout, I just don't know if Clemson is going to be able to stop Oklahoma's offense.
Yeah, all you guys have kind of mentioned the Sooners' offense, and I agree with you. That loss to Texas did them some good because since then they've won 7 straight, and since that loss, they've led the FBS in scoring and total offense. Okay, so that's earlier in the day. Let's switch it over to the second game. That would be at 8 p.m. on ESPN. We've got the Cotton Bowl between number 3 Michigan State and number 2 Alabama. Nick Saban is 8-0 against his former assistants. Mark D'Antonio was his defensive backs coach at Michigan State, so keep that in mind. Who wins? I guess I'll go to you first.
Thank you for saying Mark D'Antonio, not Mike D'Antonio or Mike D'Antonio.
It happens.
I'm nervous because the thing is I'm going to the game, which means to me that there's the potential of them getting blown out because when I go, the last time I went to see Michigan State in the Final Four, they got blown out by Duke.
Yeah.
And I know there's a revenge factor there because Nick Saban left Michigan State. A lot of Spartans feel that Nick Saban left us hanging. Nick Saban felt he could not win there. He could not beat Michigan. And then we eventually get Coach D'Antonio, who was able to do all those things. But what I worry about is Alabama has superior talent than Michigan State. And I know a lot of former Michigan State players that I talk to don't like to hear me say that, but they have all these 5-star recruits. They have all this NFL talent. And Michigan State's secondary is a major weakness. If you throw deep on Michigan State, more than likely you will beat them. I know Nick Saban's going to want to run the ball and establish that. Michigan State's defensive line is excellent. But if they run play action and they're able to beat them deep, Michigan State is in big trouble. But with all that being said, and I am biased, Michigan State has been like this team of destiny this year. They had a bad loss at Nebraska, right, where they got, they had that bad call, but I contend that if you're going to let bad teams hang around, you're going to lose eventually. Right. But they found ways to win at Ohio State. They found a way to win in Michigan. They found a way to beat Iowa, and in those games, they didn't really lead until the end.
Right.
So that's why I think maybe Michigan State has a chance to win this game.
Well, I think there's, at certain points the game becomes about matchups, and I think the matchup against Alabama works perfect for them because they're not a throwing team. They're going to try to grind you out, and they're going to let Henry do all the work for them. And I think that works well for Michigan State in that scenario. And I also think, besides matchup, attitude works. And the one thing I do like about the Michigan State team is they don't care. They're not afraid of Henry. They're not afraid of Alabama. They're not afraid of the moment. They are true believers in who they are, and that, I think, can reign supreme in a one-game situation over the athletes and the pedigree that you have on the squad. And look, when they won and beat Oregon, was it week 2?
Yeah.
That's when I thought they were ready. Even with the loss to Nebraska, I thought they were ready then because that was like their bowl game right then, and they proved it throughout the rest of the season in the Big Ten.
Well, let's talk about Michigan State because Alabama, quite honestly, is the winner on paper.
Yeah.
Alabama is more talented. Alabama should win the game. Can you read my writing? It's really sloppy. Can you see that word right there?
I can't.
Destiny. You took it. Now, I don't believe in touchy-feely concepts like destiny. I believe you got to go control it and take it.
Yeah.
But there's something about. Everyone talks about luck when it comes to Michigan State. They, of course, talk about the play we showed earlier against Michigan. But
in that Oregon game, too, the Oregon quarterback missed a throw late that would have been a short touchdown to beat Michigan State. They've been getting a lot of breaks this year.
Purdue, Rutgers, tight ones for Michigan State. But after a while, and I remember thinking this with Florida State as well, they kept winning these close games. Everybody thought Florida State's going to lose sooner or later. You start to think, well, maybe they won't. I mean, it's magical thinking. You can't sort this out on 538.com with stats.
Yeah.
But you start thinking, maybe this team is sort of meant to go on, meant to win. And when that happens, you got to say, well, there's all this talent with Alabama. There's all this on paper. But maybe it's Michigan State's year.
Connor Cook's going to have to play very well.
That being said, I'm taking Alabama.
Speaking of destiny, you know what my destiny is? To take you guys to the next block. Indeed. It was a good year for the defending MVP and NBA champion Steph Curry. I mean, actually a great year. Is it possible for him to have an even better year in 2016? Our panel will tell